This episode of Who Thought We'd Be Here is brought to you by Joker Ink Apparel Decorating Company, your ultimate destination for screen printing, embroidery, and full-color digital printing. Whether it's bold apparel that makes heads turn or promotional swag that leaves a mark, we've got the expertise to make your vision come alive. And the best part, we handle orders from just one piece to a whopping 1 million. No project is too big or too small. With Joker Ink, your imagination is the limit. Our skilled team ensures every design pops with vibrancy, while our state-of-the-art technology guarantees precision and quality. Ready to make your brand unforgettable? Call us now at 845-863-3460 or visit jokerink.com. That's JOKERINK.com. Joker Inc., where creativity meets limitless possibilities. Get noticed, get remembered. Contact Joker Inc. today at 845-863-3460 or visit www.jokerinc.com.
Don't work, I take a second to breathe, yeah. Breathe in, breathe out. Couple rain clouds ain't gon' get me down. I say, breathe in, breathe out. I'm getting back to me. All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times I took a chance, all of the mistakes I made, none of it matters.
All right. Hey, how are you? Episode 32 of Who Thought We'd Be Here. We've been doing this for a whole year now.
Yeah.
This will be like our year episode because we're not realistically going to record again in the next 2 days. So,
Yeah.
this is it.
Mm-hmm.
A full year of podcasting under our belt.
Yeah, man. Good shit, dude.
Who thought Turkey? Who thought we'd be here still doing this?
Yeah, who thought we'd be here? That's the whole thing.
That's a whole year if you think about it. How many other things are you doing right now that you were doing at the beginning of a year ago today? What's the
Wait, what?
like you're like so much has
What's the
changed in
same
a
about my life?
year, but like we're still podcasting a year later.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that's been consistent,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
It was up and down.
But we did it.
Yeah, we had
That's 1 year of podcasting to add to your resume.
yeah, that's 1 year. We have a whole year on our belt.
Mm-hmm.
We've both produced and hosted
Yeah.
a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to be proud of, you know?
Yeah, right. That's a check mark.
Yeah.
And it's been
I'm going to sit like this because I'm feeling it.
yeah.
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 For now. It's
It's-
also a good stretch.
Yeah. It's been a good year. We have a episode coming out on Monday with our very, very good friend Vic.
Yeah, this will come out after that one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it comes out before, depending on how we roll it. But either way.
We've done now. It's 3 weeks in a row that we've done.
Yeah.
Had an episode come out on Monday. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we're rolling. And this one will give us another one in the barrel. So it'll be 5 weeks by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
In a row that we've done it.
Yeah, and he'll be our
Fourth.
guest.
Kilmer, Jose, Will. Yeah, he's number 4.
4. Yeah. No, didn't
We
have
got some other ones.
Oh, Brian.
Oh, Brian. So 5.
Five.
So 5 guests in the first year and 32 episodes.
Yeah.
Ironic. We're both going to be 32 this year. We got 32 episodes.
I'll be 32 in less than a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wild how that worked out.
Yeah. Well, no, you think about stuff like, a year ago I wasn't doing stand-up.
Mhm.
A year ago, there was no open mic. A year ago, I was working at River Grill.
Yeah.
You know, think about how much has changed for them.
Yeah. They're a whole different restaurant now.
A year.
R.I.P. Rest in peace to the good old River Grill. Mark Malia.
Yeah, we love
2001 to 2024.
Well, yeah, it was a good run.
Hell of a
It
run.
was
23 years.
staple, a true staple in the community.
Yeah. It's where
Part of the culture, for sure.
I grew up there, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot has really changed in this year. But I'm very happy that we're doing this and we sit down consistently to do this and we're getting back to that because it gives us that space to have conversations that are a little bit different than what we normally talk about, or some of them are exactly the same. But it's good that we're still doing it a year later. We didn't get sick of each other.
Yeah, no, yeah, we stuck through it, and we had our bumps in the road though with trying to get this done though, you know, and trying to figure it out, and like, you know, you just want to like completely separate your personal life from things like this, but you just like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
and
it's a part of you.
And you have to just like show up on days when you don't necessarily want to, or you know, maybe you don't feel like, you know, sometimes we'll just be like, yeah, like I'm not feeling it today. Let's just chill instead of putting a camera up and talking into a microphone. But I think it's kind of like stretching that muscle.
Yep, and we've been doing that a lot lately. So, do you have anything in mind that you wanted to talk about today? Your tongue's so yellow.
Shout out to Elixir.
Oh, man.
They call me Old Yellow Tongue. That was my nickname in high school. Eleanor, you want to say hi on the podcast? Come here. Come on. Oh, look who it is. Look who it is, the queen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's...
This is, I'm going to eat the cord.
I didn't have Eleanor a year ago.
Yeah, no. She wasn't even, she was, like we said.
I didn't live here a year ago, you know. You're such a good girl.
So what are some of the things you've worked through this year?
Well, I think one of the things that immediately comes to my mind is like, because me and you probably we had this conversation sitting right where we are multiple times, whether it was on the microphones or not, just about like not drinking anymore. Like, you've been sober for how long now? Is it a year and a half?
A year and 4 months.
Year and 4 months. Yeah. And like it's came up multiple times on here, just talking about and I think like I'd say like a month or two ago I kind of just had this thing that was like, I don't enjoy doing this anymore. It doesn't do anything for me, and like I feel better when I'm not doing that. I don't feel like, it doesn't make me feel like myself. And like, I'm not by any means, because I know some people like that helps them deal with kind of anxiety about themselves. Like I would never but it became like a perception thing for me. And I think over the last year I've been kind of like battling with it. It's been a part of who I am. For her. You're crazy. This dog is crazy. That like, will I be the same, or will people still think of me?
Tremors.
Yeah. you know what I mean? And I don't know. I said it last night to one of my coworkers, Jackie. If you're listening, you let me know if you hear this. But like, I don't know. Like, I wish she was like, you're still not drinking, right? I was like, I may never go back.
Yeah, that's good, man.
I feel so great, and and I'm not bragging, but like everybody's been like, you look great. And I'm like, the only thing I'm doing differently is I haven't been drinking.
How many days has it been now?
It's a little over, I don't know, 2 weeks.
Yeah. You just get from 2 weeks to a month, and then it's a day-by-day thing. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday.
But me and you also talk about, like, kind of just not getting caught up in, like, the numbers, you know? And that, like, I remember being like, well, why are you counting the days? It's just like, it's just not what you do anymore. And, like, by no means would I just, like, declare myself, like, I'll never have another drink. But I don't know, it makes me feel more like myself. I get more things done. I'm up earlier, and like I sleep better, and that's a big thing. That I'm like, if I just kind of cut that out, I'll sleep a million times better. And it's just weird to, I guess like recognize it and think about. It's like, do you want to have an honest conversation with yourself about, and I guess it's not even like, I wouldn't even consider myself like being in a position where like it was like affecting my daily life or like my relationships or things like that. But it's just like, I just realized it just doesn't do what it.
But it was, though.
Huh? No, you're right. You're right.
So,
no,
like, let's just, because that's the one
no,
thing
but what I mean
realized.
is that, like, people assume that when you quit,
Yeah.
that you have like this.
I
Like,
mean,
oh,
it's
did you fucking run somebody over with your car?
Yeah,
like,
but like
but
problems
yeah.
don't always have to be that
Yeah,
big. You can have a
exactly.
problem with something and it be on a smaller scale than that. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I didn't kill anybody, but like
No,
I was
I know,
certainly
yeah,
doing
yeah.
way too many drugs, like to
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
thinking that it wasn't impacting me and impacting my judgment. And I think the longer you go, the more you kind of step back and realize that. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
And I guess it's only been a few weeks for me, but I've danced around this for a while.
yeah.
With like a month or two here and there.
Oh.
Eleanor, you're on the charging cord. That's fine. Okay,
All right.
it's on. It could probably last through the rest of the episode, even if it got unplugged. But whatever.
Yeah. What were you saying?
No, but it's kind of like that. Do you want like the 100% version of yourself, or do you want not that?
Yeah.
Because alcohol's not going to help you get there.
I think that's the biggest thing that people don't realize. You think, like, and not by no means am I blasting anybody for drinking, because
We
like,
say this all the time.
Yeah,
but
I've done
we're
it,
just we're
and
just
like I'm
talking.
not judging. Like, to each his own. But like the one thing that you realize when you've been sober this long is just like there was never a positive outcome that came from me drinking. Like no situation was ever enhanced or made better by me being drunk. Like it was my perception of the people that I was around and the things that I were doing seemed fun to me then, but like I look back now and just see like all the stuff that like went wrong from it, and it's just a lot easier to be like, wow, there were like any of those days that I thought I was like I don't regret any of it, but like at the same time I can look back now and be honest with myself and being like, was I having a good time because of I was having a good time, or was I having a good time because I was drinking and I thought that was what a good time was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the perception is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And like my problem is that like when I drink, my perception becomes that like it's almost like you start to think that like people are out to get you, or you get really self-conscious, or and it's just not that serious, and it's just like, well, I don't like feeling this way, so why keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why keep kind of adding to?
I think when you use substances like alcohol and like other drugs, what it does is it really just like lets your ego mind run wild. And like that's what's like leading your life, and like that's what's in control. And if you don't step back away from that and like realize that like all of that stuff is just ego, that's like you have to step back and be like, that's not me. That's my perception of everything because of how I was raised and how I grew up and trauma in my life, and this is the way that I was taught. Like it's your teaching. I think a big part of having a spiritual awakening or like just becoming more self-aware is being able to realize that like I was taught all of these things and that's why my ego tells me that this is what I want, but like if I step back and like what really makes me happy, and then I start to like dive into that, you can see like what was kind of just like facade.
Yeah, that was a really good way of putting that. Sorry, I'm just messing with the audio here.
That's okay.
And like, who are we to talk, right? It's like we're smoking weed, but I just know that like that's not what weed does to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we went through a phase on this podcast too where we stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And it's up and it's down, but that to me is the thing that's more impacting. Like I don't feel like smoking weed at the end of my night changes who I'm gonna be tomorrow.
Yeah.
But going out, having a few drinks, staying out late, and not getting a good night's sleep has a far greater consequence to at least myself. For some other people, it may be different, or maybe the opposite, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It like I feel better, and it's just like a matter of like, okay, well, that's what I can do that's better today, you know, and just give yourself credit for that versus getting caught up in trying to be perfect.
Yeah. Me and you were talking about the other day about kind of just like realigning what we wanted the podcast to be and like what we talk about and like kind of just narrowing it down, and we both were like saying like self-reinvention, and I think that's a lot about what we talk about. It's like how we're both working through that and what we're trying to do, and like that'll be your year thing, you know, like for this new year, and then like going forward with the podcast, that'll be something that you'll be able to look at and like dive into, and like because you're finally going through that transformation where you're like, okay, it's time to like leave this alone so I can like better myself. And like that's in a way that's just you doing what we're talking about, you know. This is your process. So I think it'll be insightful for a lot of people to be able to listen to you go through that experience, because I feel like that's kind of like what the first 6 months of this were for me. It was like, because I was very much in that point when we started. So
yeah, and it's kind of
I'm
like
excited to see how it goes for you and where it goes, and I think you're making the right decision, and I think it'll just become more abundantly clear the longer you do it. And I think that's the biggest thing with it, is like once you start to see clearly how much more impactful like waking up and being refreshed and like all the things you were just talking about is on your life, and you start to see the things that are happening for you stack up, like I think it'll just make it easier, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it leads to in terms of just like, because I feel like a lot of my work ethic lacks coming from that. So I'm excited to see how that, like, being able to get into more of a routine.
I think, and I don't mean this in any sort of way, but I think
yeah.
I think you've been for so long, at least from my perspective sitting here and when we talk, is like you've been on the fence with this thing for so long that it's clearly something you think about for a good portion of the day. And I think now that it's been a couple weeks since you haven't been drinking, now that conversation you're not having with yourself as much, and it's going to just open up bandwidth for you to like download other things, you know, and start like thinking big picture, like more about comedy, like more about what you're doing, you know.
More
what
about
I mean?
this, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been more productive over the last 3 weeks of this podcast than I probably ever was during the whole first year.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, you've been banging these things out, and like I don't even have to text you to see if they're done. Like I get the notification from Buzzsprout or from YouTube that the video's done uploading, like 3 days before it's coming out now.
Sometimes even further, yeah.
Yeah.
And like that gives me like something to build on, and to like, and it's not like I went a few times and just like I went and hung out at the bar with you and didn't drink, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's something to do, but it's not like the possibility of, oh, I'm going to spend 4 or 5 hours doing that today.
Yeah.
And then that's going to snowball into tomorrow because I made those decisions. And then not only am I going to not feel that great, but I'm going to like be mad at myself and feel guilty about what I did yesterday. And then that feeds into today.
And then it's just that internal conversation again.
Hold on, sweetie.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're doing it to benefit yourself, and you'll see the benefits, but I think it'll also, like, for me, it bled into, like, relationships and everything else, like, my productivity, too, like, and you just started going to the gym, like, and once you're consistent with that, I honestly think, like, that was the biggest switch that went off for me, is when I started, like, working out and, like, getting serious about, like, taking care of my body, like, that's when it was just, like, it started to become so clear, like, I'm not about to just... I went for a 5-mile run today. I'm not throwing that down the drain for having 2 drinks. Like for you, if you went to the gym for an hour, like go get a nice meal. Like, don't go sit at the bar and have 2 drinks to celebrate. You know. Like,
We talk like you think about like like $50 a month to go to join a gym or something like that. Seems like a lot, but then you think about like how much did I spend this past month on just going out and having a few drinks. and then that leads to like, oh well, now all of a sudden like, oh, because I got drunk last night and I didn't have dinner, I spent $75 on DoorDash.
Yeah.
And like I love a good drunk DoorDash, but I'm like, it's the snowball. And I think it's just like being more aware of that I'm making a decision that like benefits tomorrow versus right now. And it's just like you can't and it kind of just makes me rethink how all the other rest of my time is, because then it's just like, oh, it's very easy to think, I work 5 days a week, so I don't have the time to be doing other things. But then when you take out that other extracurricular activity that you use to like relieve yourself from work, you realize how much extra kind of energy you have to put elsewhere that isn't being put into what are the people at the bar thinking? And I'm just saying, this is me. Like, that's just where my my head goes. And I think the real thing that put me over the edge with it was that open mic night where I had a few too many, and I just thought everything went so bad, and everybody was like, the night was fine, what are you talking about? And I started to think like, well, this has the potential to like ruin this or take me off a path that I'm on here, because I'm so in my own head that I'm not here for the other people that are around me.
Alcohol has a low vibration, man, and consuming it just brings down your vibration to match it, and then you're just in a negative space, and like you think things are going wrong, and like in reality, like the only thing that's going wrong is like you're just drinking too much and you're in your own head, and now you can't get out.
Yeah. That's a solid way of describing it. And like I said, I don't know, like it's one of those things that kind of feels to me like, make a solid decision about this.
Yeah.
Because then if you just kind of like because that's what I've been doing for months. Like,
up and down, up and down, up and down. I've been there, man. I know exactly what it's like.
Yeah,
I've sat in the mirror and been like, this is it. And then like the next day, like woken up, hungover, and been like, I need a drink.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's a struggle, but like I really believe once you make that decision, like it becomes easier, and it's just a matter of sticking with it.
Yeah. So it's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning, I guess. I'm trying to but it, like, I don't know, I just feel kind of more clear-headed and in a way, it's like you said, it's like exciting. I don't like, I'm kind of excited to see like what because I've been, like I said, I don't want to make it out like I'm this like huge alcoholic and it ruined my family, but I think it's something that you kind of deny that it has this impact on you, and then you circle back to it and realize like
like
it adds up, and it I don't know, it feels like to me the base decision that I can build upon in other areas of my life that I can't if I'm still doing that. It's kind of does that make sense?
I 100% get it.
It's like a building block.
When I stopped drinking, I was able to open up space for myself to be able to like work through shit that's been in my life, whether I've discussed it with people or not, like things that I've gone through and like trauma that I've dealt with. And like I would have just kept drinking and never addressed the situation. Like I've had long conversations with myself, like writing and journaling and just like going on walks and like working through what's going on, like talking to the people that I need to talk to about the situations, like, and it just opens you up and it like lightens the load so much, man. Like I had a conversation last night, and it was something that I had never told anybody, but I was like, I'd been thinking about it for a really long time, and I knew it was something that I was going to have to work through at some point, and the only way I was going to be able to work through it was by talking to her, because it was going to directly, I knew like the only way for our relationships, like for her to really understand me, is to understand like what I've went through. So like we had that conversation, and it felt like when I was trying to say it at the beginning, and like it felt like I had like such a weight on my chest. Like I couldn't, it was felt like hard to breathe even though it wasn't. And I was like, what? I just kind of in my head I was like, you've been running away from this for so long. If you go and say it now, like I'll never feel this again. Like I'll never feel this weight on my chest. And like we talked about it, and she was super super supportive, and I mean I felt like better immediately. But I feel like I would have never been able to even comprehend what happened to me, or like analyze it to the point where like this isn't my fault, this is just something that happened, and like be able to approach it and like work through it and be like, this is why I have some of the reactions I have to things, like it's directly from this. Like I've was able to step back and like be like, I know when I have a reaction to a situation like this, it's directly related to this incident that I had when I was a child, and like the only way I'm ever going to be able to work through this is to address it head on. And like it was something that we had to have a conversation about last night, but like I feel way better now, and I honestly like I would have, like I said, never gotten to that point if I was still drinking, because it's just hiding. It's hiding from the things that are like really affecting you. You know what I mean?
Easy. Yeah. No, man. Like that's incredible. Like I try to, because me and you talk kind of about like what it means when you're kind of putting in day by day, and you can't necessarily see the immediate results because you're with yourself every day. But then to have like a moment like that, which I'm sure to you felt like kind of like climbing this mountain of, I've never been able to do this, and I thought that being able to do this would be like the end of me. I didn't think a part of me exists like this. So why, but like there's now, like you woke up today and there's kind of like freedom on the other side of that.
It's never gonna come up in like, I'll think about it, I'm sure, from time to time, and like maybe it'll bother me, like maybe it'll come up, but I like already know, talking about it right now, I feel relief. Like I'm not like instantly going to that place in my head that I always went to, like when something triggered that trauma, and I would kick back to it and just like be in that space where you're like kind of reliving it in the moment. You know what I mean? And like
Feel it in your body, right?
I feel, yeah, the body keeps the score, man. It's a very good book. I'll let you read it when I'm done with it.
Yeah,
but it's just like about working through trauma, and like how a lot of how you are is responsive to like trauma that's still within you, you know, because it gets held somewhere, especially when you push shit down, and that was something I pushed down for like 20 years. So you are just a kangaroo. Hello, people.
It's me, Eleanor. I'm crazy. I'm a crazy doge.
How are you doing? Yeah, that's on the mic.
And I feel like that's something that, and it's because it's like you can't just expect it to happen, but I think that over time of kind of being in that state of like, I guess like clarity or whatever you want to call it, there's like there's something to be like accessed there that is still kind of like stuck in me, you know?
Yeah. I just, you know, life and growing up and this journey to reinvent yourself is a lot of reprogramming and reteaching, and like it brings up shit that you don't want to deal with, and it's fucking hairy, and it's the scary, and like I said, like the weight that I felt, like I've never ever gotten close to telling somebody that, but like I just know that the way our relationship is and the way it goes, like I felt comfortable being able to have that conversation. Not comfortable. I was very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, it was just somebody that I could confide in, and like I knew, like I wasn't. I think a lot of working through trauma and like opening up and talking about what's affected you and kind of why you are the way you are is very scary because you're the fear of being judged for it. And like that was always something that I was like, it's gonna ruin me. And like I had the conversation and like just her response was like just very supportive and like it's exactly what I would have hoped for, but like what I was always like I never thought like that would in my head I had built it up to be like nobody's ever going to respond this way. When in fact I'm sure most people would have cuz like they can see like they understand like what you're trying to express, but
You can't picture a world where people know that about you.
yeah, so like for like I was saying, like that minute before I said anything to her, like it just felt like there was like bricks on my chest. But like
Yeah.
once you get through that, dude, like so relieving, and you can't get there without that clarity.
Yeah. Do you think that is one of the things I was thinking about last night? Because like now, but now like you know like if you're not going to bed a little tipsy or whatever, like I had a more clear vision of like, oh, like I should like take 10 minutes before I kind of go to bed and think about what we're going to talk about tomorrow, because then kind of your brain is very powerful and it can work in the background while I'm sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that came up to me because I read a chapter in a book about it earlier in the day was forgiveness. I think a part of what you're dealing with is just like forgiving yourself, and I struggle with that too, because then you start to realize that the reason that you're maybe upset with other people, or you're upset with a situation, or where are you taking something out on somebody else, like you realize that like you're not forgiving them because you haven't forgiven yourself for what maybe past decisions that you made, or you're mad at yourself for not doing something sooner, right? Like I mean you could easily like turn it into bad energy and say like, imagine where I'd be now if I got sober 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Where would I be now? But what the fuck does that do you? Like
You needed those 6 years.
you can like forgive yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like you would be there's nothing to be assumed, like, and you have to like, and it's not just like sobriety thing. It's like an emotional thing. It's like forgiving yourself for holding that in for so long, or for like forgiving yourself for allowing that to impact your I don't know if it's your daily life or your any situation that triggers you, where you're trying to like figure out why that bothered you so much, and if you're not taking the time to like give yourself the grace that like you may be mad at somebody else, but like me and you work through shit all the time and forgive each other and acknowledge stuff and try to work through stuff, but then like we turn around to ourselves and we're like, how could you fuck up like this? Or how could you not, I see like that's definitely one thing that bothers me all the time, which is just like you think to yourself like all this time I've been here has been wasted. What am I doing with my life? Like, how do I forgive myself for making this mistake in the past, and then kind of letting it continue to take over my life? And then you wake up one day and you're like, I'm 31 years old. Where am I at? You can't kind of move on and make bigger steps and try to be a better person if you don't say like, hey, it's okay that you fucked up. You're a human being. It's okay that you lost your temper. It's okay that you got fucked up, or whatever it might be. And like the forgiving part. It's like I said, like how do you get over stuff in your childhood if you don't forgive your parents? How do you forgive, or how do you be in an adult relationship where your partner is going to make mistakes, if you don't forgive the people from your past for doing whatever they did to you? And how do you forgive yourself for what you maybe how you reacted in a previous situation? And that adds up, and it's just like giving yourself grace to be like, okay, like it's not. It's like you don't have to be the person today that you were, but you have to acknowledge that that was who you were at one point.
Yeah, man.
You know,
It's like
I don't know. It's a weird way of.
No, I get it, because it's like there's so much shit that like it molded you, man. And like I think a lot of people think when they're like working through shit, like, oh, like I'm just gonna like, you feel like if you push something down or like if you suppress it with like drinking or just like whatever it is, and like you just push it away long enough, like it'll just disappear. But that's not what it happens. It just gets held in your body, and like unless you address it, like you're always gonna have that in you. I was gonna say something else. That wasn't
all the time.
What was the last thing that you said?
About like forgiving yourself in relationships and like
No,
acknowledging the past.
never mind.
We'll run the tape back. But.
It'll come back to me.
Yeah, bro, forgive yourself right now for forgetting that.
Yeah. I ain't even mad about it.
Yeah, well, like.
But like,
yeah.
I know.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I struggle with that all the time. I try to forgive myself for yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, what did you know? It's. I don't know. It's like that. It's like riding that line of how many. Like just creating a little bit more awareness so that in that moment you can try to be better. It's not always going to work out that way, but we try, right? Like,
Oh, I was gonna say, you can't like you can like try and run away from stuff, but like it's a part of you. So like it's better to accept like this is who I was and like this is who I am now, and like continue to mold that who I am now person to be the person that you want, like aligning yourself with like the highest version of yourself, like where you see yourself down the road, like doing the things that that version of you did to get there. And like you can do that because you have the bandwidth and the clarity, because you've forgiven and like let go of so much stuff from the past. I've been able to do so much more this year than I feel like I've grown so exponentially in the last year. Like since we started doing this, like since I stopped drinking, like just the growth, like it's not huge, like, but it's like I see those little days that stack up because I've been doing it for so long. And it's like something that like instead of beating myself up about the way I was about something, now I'm just very grateful for the way that I am and who I am now, as opposed to being like kicking myself over what I was doing.
Yeah, I find it like easier to and like I said, I mean, and it's not just the drinking. It's just kind of like a willingness to like look at yourself, right, and acknowledge the moment. And like meditation has helped me immensely in terms of that, of just like taking a deep breath, like noticing where your emotions are at, and you know, like, where do you feel that kind of stress or anxiety in your body? What do you laugh? Is it like yellow tongue?
No. In my head, I'm just like, wow, we're both just like using super big words today.
Super big words. Super big words.
I said exponentially. He said immensely. Like, this is a grammar podcast now.
Statistically, we gotta change. What would the name of the podcast be if we like made it all the? If we made like who thought we'd be here, like the most possible like smartest words.
Oh man.
What if we made it like Old English? Should we do a medieval episode?
You want to go to medieval times and just do it from the parking lot?
Hear ye, this is the podcast. Let me break out my scroll, old boy. I rode my steed here today. Can you believe I sent a carrier pigeon? Martha hasn't gotten it yet. It's been 4 weeks. She hasn't responded to my carrier pigeon.
A fortnight.
How many fortnights is that?
Eleanor gets
Have you
excited
ever-
when we talk about medieval times.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those the guys on like TikTok and Instagram who they do like medieval stuff, but they act like they're live streaming?
Oh, yeah, I've seen like
Have you
one
seen
or two
those?
videos, yeah.
It'll be like they'll be like, no way, they're saying that. Can't even.
I know exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Those dudes are mad funny.
They're like, no way, Friar John was in the keep with Martha. Hey, stop, please.
She cleaning the back and the air.
It'd be like no, and it would be like no, Gort, you cannot replace the. You're a serf, you cannot replace him. He's like, thanks, thanks for the crop circles. Thank you. Like, I think we should do a medieval episode. I think that'd be fun.
Do we dress up?
But yeah, a little bit.
Just like live. I've done LARP before.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in college, just one night, like drunk, walked past the kids in the quad doing it, and me and my roommate were like, "Yo, can we join?"
I always think about role models.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. the what were we talking about before that though?
We were having a serious
Yeah, we were mad
conversation,
serious, and then we were just like,
and I was like, "He said a big word."
I have I don't want to brag. But I have been reading the dictionary lately.
Have you?
No. That'd be funny if I did though. I'm trying to find something from what we were talking about before. the it's
11:15.
11:15 if that's what you're.
Yeah, no, I just saw it on the clock there. I have to work today, so if you somehow see this video leaked before it comes out, come see me at the bar.
If you're in my iCloud, show up and use the secret word.
What do you want to talk about? Exciting, exhilarating stuff from
Exhilarating
Eleanor.
stuff. Yeah. Every time I look at her, I try to think of the word patience in my head. 'Cause she's a puppy and she's fucking crazy.
Yep.
Wild. All over the place. But I also like... I feel for her because I'm always like... Maybe not to the degree of like every 5 seconds with her, but like trying to focus on this thing but then thinking about the other thing and like always skipping ahead. But I'm like, she's being present,
Yeah.
you know? But like every 5 seconds it's like all over the place and it's just like, I feel for you,
Yeah.
you know?
She got
But that's all
permanent monkey mind.
that's like, yeah, that's like happening to you right now. She won't always have it though. You're so pretty, but you're a fucking nut job. I know. Okay. But yeah, that I think the patience kind of just ties into what we're talking about, which is like being patient with yourself and you know, it sounds cliche, but it's like when you break it down and you think about like, you know, none of us have our time promised, but if you figure you're going to live for the average that another person lives, like the average person lives, like what can you do? A year is such a small percentage of that time.
Especially when you stack your years by having your days in 3 parts. 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. One day, I'm already kicking your ass.
6 a.m. First of all, 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. I'm kicking your butt. I've stacked up years over you. I've stacked up years. But like a lot of times we only stick with things for like a month or two or
The first 40 minutes of this podcast, we
Yeah.
stuck with it.
we stuck with it. And then you kind of realize like what like you think about it like other than like maybe a job or I guess in your case a relationship, but like what because I haven't been in a relationship for multiple years, but you have. Like you think about like what have I like we've done this podcast for a year. Like what other things have you done like stuck with for a whole year
Yeah.
in terms of something that like that that is hard work but that is good for you and adds up over time.
Yeah.
You like there's probably only a few things that you can think of. You know? That you like we've dedicated ourselves to this and like but we also know fully well that there's like a whole nother gear that can be accessed because we're you're trying to juggle a lot of things, but that's one thing we haven't talked about in a while, which is like imagine you think about it, like hopefully there's a day where like this pays our bills.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's coming.
And like we've done it for a year.
Yeah.
We're already like it may be kind of a joke, but it's also like we're already.
I mean, I don't.
Way ahead of like at least 90% of other podcasts in terms of like the fact that we've stuck with this and we've gone through the ups and downs and we've still continued to put out episodes, even when like we had ones that maybe weren't the easiest to get through.
Remember the third episode of this? How much of a struggle that was in your basement? When we did it at the kitchen table that first time, that episode was so, like mind-bogglingly difficult. And like now
we just thought we had it figured out after like one thing.
Yeah, and now we're so far down the line and like we were very naive, but like it isn't as hard as we thought it was going to be. But like in that moment, that second time when you think like, "Oh, I figured it out," because you did it once and then you just get punched in the face. Like, "Oh, this is fucking hard."
Yeah, well, and it's kind of also like that like evolutionary thing of like recognizing like we're still kind of finding out what this is. It's still kind of like becoming a new thing, but because I've talked about this with stand-up before, which is that you do it one time and you feel like you're going into that and you think that it's like this make or break thing. But you realize that you have hundreds, possibly thousands of more chances to continue doing this. And that's the same thing with this podcast, which is that like this one doesn't have to be so amazing because we know we're going to sit down in 4 days and do this again. And that it's always an opportunity to get better. And if you're always focusing on like, oh, well, why aren't we Joe Rogan? Like, or whoever, just in terms of success at doing this, like, then what's the point? It's just like, well, no, there's just like there's kind of a different path for what we're doing. And,
it's just about showing up and continuing to do it, I think, and taking enough bumps like we took in those first couple episodes to realize now like what a bump is. Like, oh, this is just a bump that we're having today.
Yeah.
Like if the mics aren't working correctly the way we want them to, or the sound doesn't come out as good as we thought it did when we get done, like we're like, oh, that's a bump. Like we can fix this. We know how to fix this now.
But
like,
because it's like I said, like in the last episode, I was like, I kind of dropped the ball on your audio a little bit, and then like I came into this one and I was like, I better be seeing those fucking things. Be sure to watch this episode on YouTube because it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, the dog
With
has
the puppy.
been all over the place today.
Yeah.
She a good girl though. One of the things, this might seem small, like it's not small, because I mean, like, who am I to put it into terms? Most of the people that are listening to this don't have their own podcasts.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you make content on YouTube, but you know how you think when you post a video it's going to get like hundreds and hundreds of likes, and we learned very quickly that like it doesn't. It takes time to build up views and stuff, but like the episode we put out, 29, hit 100 views in the first week, which might seem small compared to other podcasts, but like when you're just starting out, and we were putting out content, like our first episode only has 117 views, and that's been out for a year.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, like we put out an episode and the views are what we get in a week are what used to take a year to get to. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So we're already building that. And it's just like one of those things that you can look at and be like, okay, we really have like made strides with this. Like you can see it. Yeah,
exactly. And to just kind of like take stock of where we're at, and be like proud of ourselves for we stuck with this for a year. Like there was times where we went a month or even longer without recording or doing an episode, but we always came back to it. And we're in a good place now. We've been really consistent about it, and
Between the two of us, we've moved like 5 times in this year.
I'm excited to see, like, you know, like I don't know about you, but in terms of the whole year, I never thought that this is where we'd be now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we were like, maybe in the beginning thought it'd be easy and that we'd be at maybe more than 30 episodes, but like to stick through it, and like between the guests that we've had and how we've made strides as people in our personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't picture that a year ago. This is where, because like I mean it's kind of like like I said, you think about all the things in your life that you didn't stick with, or that you didn't really dedicate the time to, and then you find something like this, and you realize,
said, "Oh, he's got my mouth."
like, oh, like this is something more, like, because it's kind of weird, because I talked about this before we started recording, which was that like I don't know why, but I can just like feel like there's a sponsor coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, I can just sense it though.
Yep.
Like we've been at this, we've been consistent about it, and we've made huge strides as like we've produced 32 episodes of, or 31, I guess, technically, whatever you want to call it.
This will be the 32nd.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, who thought we'd be here, bro?
Yeah, man. Who thought we'd be here? It's good to be here.
Yep.
It's exciting. Who knows what, like, well, I mean, that's something we can talk about for sure. Like, for you now, a year into this, what's something that you'd like to accomplish when it's August of next year? What, like, when we're sitting here and down here and we're saying, oh, it's been 2 years of this. What's and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the podcast, but
I'm gonna keep it just in terms of the podcast. But for me, I'd like to look back next year and be like, maybe there was like a couple weeks where we like had a hiccup and didn't put something out, but like I wrote down in my journal on January 1st that I wanted to do 75 episodes this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point we had like, I was still living in the city, so we hadn't even done Kilmer's interview, so we were probably around like 16.
Okay.
So we've done 15 since then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I realistically, I would like to just keep putting out. I'd like us to just be consistent. That's the biggest thing for me. In a year, I'd like to look back and be like, we really made the time to sit down and have a conversation for the podcast once a week, and still had time for us to like have our friendship time, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't there never got to a point where it was overlapping, or it was just like this was all we were doing, or we weren't doing it at all and we were doing other stuff. But like, just to see because we've seen what a year looks like. What's a year consistently look like? Like a consistent full year, like where we banged out an episode every week, or like,
and we planned ahead, and we made time for, like, if you're going away, or
like how
yeah,
big
yeah.
does this look? What room are we sitting in? And I know the conversations are going to be very similar. Like, it'll be just like changing things, like with our day to day and with our lives, and as we go on, because the year will change things. But I'd like to see where we physically are sitting in a year, and like how consistent we were with showing up to doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we were in an like an actual setup studio, or like just a space that we had like made basically a studio for ourselves, and to just be able to look back and be like, we did a bunch of episodes, we had good guests on, like we don't need a million guests, but like I would love to have, like, we've always talked about maybe having at least one guest episode a month. And we tried to do that at the beginning. It just didn't work out. But like, if we could get to that point, or maybe 2 a month, like one, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
one week's us, the next week's a guest. 1 week's us, the next week's a guest. Like,
Yeah.
but just just that, and like the growth of like our conversations to see like what we're talking about in a year.
Yeah, if you're a fan of this podcast and you feel like you kind of relate to what we talk about, feel free to reach out to us.
As long as you're willing to talk about reinventing yourself, something that was hard with you and brought you to where you are now.
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say is, because I've talked about this a little bit, and I think that I'd like to see us in a year from now.
I'd love to be making money too.
Oh, yeah, of course. I was gonna say, it's not what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that like I feel like any podcast that truly is successful and is making an impact, like, is doing something for others.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see us maybe like branch out and maybe not only in other forms of content, but like we've had this platform and we've been able to like help promote our friends and do things like that feel great to me, because just like whatever platform I have, I'd like to like bring as many other people into it and help them. But maybe it's in terms of like I was thinking the other day about like what could we do in terms of like a fundraiser in terms of like mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like, are you opposed in any way to having like some type of event for the podcast, or just like branching out in terms of what
do a live episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a thing that we could do.
Like a live
episode.
episode.
I think
with
that'd be
Q&A.
so cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like
just right at the Roosevelt.
Yeah, exactly.
Right upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. And to like what more can we, because like I don't know, to me it's amazing what we've done in terms of like, but like we really only feel this on like on a digital level. Like, so what could we do in terms of like bringing people together, and like create something that's that maybe, like I said,
what is our Brooklyn Bridge?
Oh, for Jose?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like what? Yeah. Like how do we like take this to the next step, or like I said, branch out in terms of what an episode is, or what we post on social media.
We could do
because we've already started kind of experimenting with other things. It's like, who says that we have like that because don't get me wrong, this is great, but like, who says that every single episode has to be us just like sitting in our apartments talking about what we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be fun to see, and maybe that's something like, if you have ideas, or like reach out to us.
Yeah, comment on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere.
Yeah,
like, share.
Yeah,
download. We get paid that way if you guys do that.
But I don't necessarily have a exactly clear idea of what that could be. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a good start. Like, that could be super fun.
Yeah.
Why not?
Just like Q&A and a live
of course
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the Roosevelt and just bash drinking. No, we'd have to do something different. Like, we could have a conversation that could be serious. I wouldn't center it around, or maybe we do. We should do an episode live. We could see if they'd be interested. Just like sitting down with some of the guys that are like in the AA that are in the park all the time on Sundays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting episode.
That's very cool.
We'll just bring AA directly to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it we talk about it a lot on here, and it's a big part of it. But I just
we're not fully centered around that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want it to. I don't want people to think that they can't enjoy a drink while listening to our live podcast about how we're both sober. But like, what? No, it's I don't know. But I think that's kind of like you've been in it for a while, and I'm trying to figure out how to like deal with that. And but now it just feels like I have this extra space for other things that
Start using that notes app on your phone when you're walking around, man.
I use notes all the time. I don't really use it for the podcast though. I use it more for material.
No, I would like just like when. So you know what I use it for? When I'm walking, just like if I notice the stream of consciousness that I'm having is just like going in a certain direction, like what I'm thinking about, like then I start writing it out. So like I can like actively like work through it while I'm thinking about it. Because that happens a lot for me when I'm walking Lola in the morning.
Yeah.
It also helps that I don't have to have her on the leash though.
Yeah.
So that I can just have two hands. Getting pulled was not fun when I was trying to type.
Yeah, but that's like that's one of the things that I try is like I think that's a big part of this podcast is just like being present, and I think that's why we keep coming back to this is because sitting down and having these conversations like always like bring me back to the present moment. Like it feels like a hack almost in a way because like in so many other scenarios, whether like you're at work or you're maybe trying to meditate or doing stuff like that, like you're thinking about something else, or you're thinking about the past, or you're thinking about what am I going to do later, what am I going to have for dinner, and but I never feel that when we do this. Yeah. Like, and I think that's why it comes out so raw sometimes, and like we don't necessarily
we don't realize it in the moment.
We're kind of like a little all over the place, but that's kind of all we know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that was right on par with every other episode. Probably like an hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Between 58 minutes and 64 minutes, this podcast will be. If you made it all the way to the end, comment pineapples.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever commented pineapples.
Yeah.
I did find out though that somebody told me they listened to the whole episode, and I was like, "You really? You're like part of the 1% retention rate that we have."
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, start to finish." And I was like, "That's amazing. I love that." I was like, "You really made it through the whole thing." I was like, "Sometimes we get off the fucking rails."
Yeah. And just like it's so true though. It's so true. And like if you're listening, like things are happening like with the dog or like with something getting dropped or something like that just like make no sense when you're listening. But that's also something that I will for sure I want to put out there, because if you've made it this far, then maybe you're the right person for this. Like we need help. Like we need somebody to help us, you know, like producing this and like and like putting up for us to like. It's fine with where we're at now, but if we want to grow, we're gonna need help. So if you feel like you're the right person for that, feel free to reach out to us.
Leave your application on Indeed.
It doesn't have to be that serious. But if you're a fan, or I don't know, man. I don't know how else to like put that out there.
Yeah. I gotta go to work.
I gotta go to work. I feel that, brother. I feel that. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who thought we'd
download, like, share, subscribe.
And we'll put out more than 32 episodes next year. Hold us to it.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
All that glitters and gold. I had money been broke. I've been high, I've been low. I done picked it, been